p.m. and this meeting is called to order. We have a quorum present. And I'd like to start with the invocation. Lord, be with us this evening as we endeavor to run the city and make decisions on behalf of the citizens. Be with the ill and lonely. Be with the leaders of our country. In Jesus' name I pray these things. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor and protect the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
A bit of a change up tonight since the mayor is not present, nor the mayor pro tem. Are there any public comments tonight? Okay. Move on. Okay, on to announcements. On September 1st is Labor Day. City offices will be closed. On September 8th, there will be the regular planning and zoning meeting at 6 p.m. September 2nd is monthly bulk pickup. September 3rd is the monthly outdoor siren test at 1 p.m. September 11th is a regular city council meeting at 6 p.m. And on September 20th, the Rhome Public Library will be celebrating its 65th anniversary. They'll have Elm Street shut down, and we'll have some donor vendor booths and activities for the entire family. And have live music and some food. So please come to that.
What time?
10 a.m. 10 to 1. We'll move on to, are there any other announcements? Move on to the vote on the consent agenda. That would be the approval of minutes from the August 14, 2025 meeting and the police department policy for promotional system. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda. I'll second.
And your votes?
Yes.
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 Just again, are there any reports from the monthly staff reports?
No, sir, not this month.
Okay, we will move into the public hearing. This is a time for someone to speak if they want to be heard on the tax rate for the coming fiscal year. And the time is 6:03, and we will be entering the public hearing. Rhome City Council to conduct a public hearing to consider ordinance 2025-05 and hear citizen input regarding the proposed tax rate for fiscal year October 1, 2025 to September 30, 2026. Okay, the public hearing is now open. 6. Would anyone like to speak?
I'm just wondering about the tax rate.
Can you please stand up there?
I'm just wondering about the tax rate.
Did you have a specific question?
Can anybody explain why we're going up like we are?
Really, this is not an answer and question session. This is a public hearing, so you can make comments and express your opinions to the council, but they are prohibited by law from engaging in question and answers.
Okay. I understand, we're gonna have a pretty pretty hefty tax rate. Is that because we can't keep up with the bills around here or what?
I do believe your questions will get answered later in the agenda, sir.
Okay. All right.
Are there any more comments? If that is the case, we will close the public hearing at 6:05 PM. At this time, we will open a public hearing to consider ordinance 2025-06 and hear citizen input regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year October 1, 2025 to September 30, 2026. I'm opening the public hearing at 6:06. Are there any comments regarding the proposed budget at this time?
Once again, I'll just offer to the vote, this is an opportunity for anybody that wants to speak, to offer an opinion about the proposed ordinance, anything like that. And then the council will take up the ordinance here in a little bit, and they'll have an opportunity to discuss it among themselves.
If there is no citizen input at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:06 PM. Is Kimley Horn here yet?
No, sir, I do not see them. I don't know. They were coming from downtown Fort Worth. I'm not sure if they got stuck in traffic. There is information in your packet though, and I can walk you through the documents that we received along with Mr. Dominguez on the bid opening for the sanitary sewer lines if we'd like to proceed.
Okay.
You will run there if you want to skip that, I think to go to one of the other items, that's.
Yeah,
Want to move to D?
Okay, we're gonna change the order of the regular agenda and move on to item D in light of the engineering firm is not available for item A.
Or you could go to the two ordinances that you just had the public hearings.
Yeah. I think Amanda wants to.
I think we were waiting for Christy King to get in place.
Oh, okay.
Probably she was going to be here in about 20 minutes.
I'll be quiet.
Good thought.
Okay, this item regards the right-of-way drainage maintenance options that we've discussed in previous meetings. And Ms. DeGan, can you please take this item?
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. We have been working over the past several weeks to obtain bids to clean out the right of way that is behind the houses in Crown Point where the rocks have been placed to deal with the erosion matters that we have in that particular area. Mr. Dominguez has attempted diligently to get several quotes, but so far we've only received one. So I'm going to let him take the mic and see if he can give you an update on that.
Good afternoon, council. So, I have been working on the Crown Point ditch, cleaning or maintenance of that easement. And, I have reached out to quite a few folks and companies and, I think there's a lack of interest. One, some companies are not big enough to weed eat it or do what we're asking. They have came out and they see the length is about 1,000 feet and you can't stick machinery in. So they have respectfully asked that they would not be interested in taking the job. I've had a few other companies that have said, yes, we can do it, but no response, no communication, not followed up. And it's been 2 weeks and I think they might have lost interest as well. I did have one company try to give a bid, but I've never heard of the company and the bid was, I think, a little unrealistic of the actual job. And I don't feel confident until we get 3 bids to make sure he understands what we're trying to get. But we'll keep reaching out and trying to get more people to submit a bid.
So our recommendation to council, one of the things that we were directed to do was to not approach this as a one size fits all for the community. We talked about the fact that your ordinance is addressed right of way, and the homes that touch that area that is adjacent to their property, it's required that the homeowner or the property owner maintain and mow those areas. And we do have some within the city that are currently being handled that way, and we do have this one area that it is just not feasible for the residents to traverse back behind their house where their fence is and climb over those rocks, which is meant to deal with the erosion that was placed either by the developer or by the city and has been there for several years. So it is our recommendation to you that we would continue to seek bids for said project and to clean that out twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And see if we can find a contractor who can actually have some confidence that they are gonna come in and be able to get over those, and it's just becoming a little more of a challenge than we expected, but it's our recommendation that we find someone who could clean those out. But we're thinking that the cost may be between $6,000 and $12,000, at least for the initial clean out, because it's kind of brushy back there right now. So that would be what we're looking for council feedback on, is if that's something you want us to pursue a couple of times a year.
Yeah, I'd like to see it pursued at least twice, so the homeowners don't have to take that whole bulk off.
Yeah, I'm good with that waiting on bids.
Yeah, I think that's something that, twice to keep up with it, otherwise it will get out of hand over the year.
I think that was a big concern of some of the contractors were once a year, twice a year. Some of them were like, do you want this monthly? Because I get their concern. I used to do that kind of stuff. And if you let the grass get this tall every time, it's not easy. I mean, you're gonna go in there, it's gonna take time. I mean, that's how it goes. And, I think some of them were more or less concerned about how often it was gonna happen, and I was uncertain of that. So I think it was best to bring this subject back up and try to get some guidance.
Now, the areas that are along, say, the resident who brought this information to our attention, that are along mowable areas, those still need to be maintained by the property owner according to the ordinances that we currently have in place within the city of Rome. We're simply talking about the areas where the big rocks are placed. And we've got folks that are older, we've got folks that are renters, we have all kinds of people with varying disabilities that live within the city. And to ask them to put a gate in behind their house and then try and navigate those is probably better the city's responsibility or contractors than it is the residents themselves, even though the ordinance reads differently. So this is more of a customization of our plan than it is a deviation from what we currently have in place.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to call on your expertise. Now, is it possible? And Jesus is also, and is it possible like they could mow it or take care of it once in the spring and then apply some sort of environmentally friendly herbicide to keep it from growing until the fall and when they address it again?
I haven't looked at it personally, so I don't know. They were saying there's rocks back there. That's gonna be a problem there.
They're big.
How far are the rocks? How many are they?
Everywhere. I mean, from 1,000 feet to the next, from 0 feet to 1,000 feet, there's rocks in the middle, there's rocks to the side. And more or less on the sides is where they were to prevent erosion. But over time, they have fallen into the middle. But we don't want to disturb that because it creates the problem of erosion. And my thing with weed killing or herbicide, we got to think of it too, is if the roots, the foundation of the grass goes away, we're going to create a bigger problem when it rains. I would love to do that, wish we could, but I'm just thinking that may cause an issue.
Well, that's where I was going with this. I was just trying to get clarification on the rocks. Is anything you put down upstream is gonna affect downstream?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I was just trying to find out if there was something could help the situation.
No, absolutely, yeah, and I thought about it too, I was like, well, we could weed kill it, and I was thinking, well, if it rains a lot, though, it's gonna create a whole nother problem.
So we'll pursue continuing to find bids for this particular project. If it exceeds what we have stated we think it will come in, then we will let council know. Otherwise, we will just continue. Pardon?
Manager, I was just gonna remind you that if we can demonstrate there isn't any responsible bidders, we can go to what's called sole sourcing. You can reach out to a single provider of the service. You just need to document your efforts to put it out for bid, and if you don't get any responses, and that's what you need to document. Go to the sole source.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still waiting for another city council.
Mr. Walters, they have texted that they are not going to arrive for today's meeting, so I would bring you to your packet. Mr. Dominguez and I have worked with Kimley Horn. There is a letter in your printed packet at your desk from Kimley Horn that explains the recommendation that they would have brought forward. Apparently, we had 9 bids that were received for the West Sanitary Sewer Line Improvement Project, at least the first phase of this. You'll recall that this was approved by voters back in May of 2024. And this bid, I'm pleased to say, comes in within budget, well within budget, and even has some ad alternates that we could potentially continue to enhance and still be within budget. So they are recommending that we accept the low bid from Canary Construction LLC with a base bid of $758,989. And you do have the bid tabulation also attached to your letter from Kimley Horn. So at this point, it would be staff recommendation to you all that we accept that low bid and get this project moving.
Is there any discussion on the side?
Amanda, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
If they are inclined to do a motion, are you wanting the motion to address the not to exceed amount? Do you want to go there tonight, or do you just want a motion to address the base?
The not to exceed amount is fine as well. There are some things that we could add in staff discretion that we can put to this project, and it's still within budget.
That's a discretion of the council. Okay.
So do I have a motion?
Or do we have other questions that we can answer for you?
I'm good, but it's Canary Construction
Yes, sir.
LLC, and we're not doing not to exceed or anything, right?
I would prefer the not to exceed because it does have the ad alternate bids, which are in the tabulation
Okay.
of some projects that will help to enhance our sewer system and those lines and the replacement.
All right. I'll make a motion to award the bid to Canary Construction LLC for the repair, installation, and necessary work on the sanitary sewer lines for the West wastewater treatment plant.
Barbara, do they need to specify the base bid and the not to exceed?
I think it'd be good for the record. Go ahead and put those in.
Could you add that to it, please?
That the,
The base bid is $758,989.
so award the bid to Canary Construction with a base bid of $758,989 and an additive alternate bid of $1,233,289.
Thank you, sir.
That came out just a little bit awkward. The total amount will not exceed $1,233,289, as I understand the way you presented it. Correct.
That's what I understood. Yeah.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Are we clear on all that?
Would you like me to rephrase it just to see it? Or-
Go ahead.
So we have a motion on the floor for a bid award for the construction of the initial west sanitary sewer line improvements. Council will award the bid to Canary Construction LLC for a base bid of $758,989 with additional alternative items to be included at the discretion of city staff in an amount not to exceed $1,233,289. And we have a That motion was put out, and do we have a second?
Second.
And your vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. That will get one of our projects moving fairly quickly, that will approved by the voters, which we are very grateful to have that ability to reinvest in the community. So we will pick that up, and Mr. Dominguez will start getting with the engineer and the construction company to start all of that work. Thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute recess for our council person to adjourn. Time is 6:20.
A marriage label, that has a public hearing.
You did great. You were really worked great.
I took many meetings. I got to
Did I yet? No. That budget has just consumed us for the last 3 or 4 days.
How are you?
Been going
on since 1997.
What's up, City? If the reading is here,
September 4th.
We scheduled out today around, noon, I think, well, yes, sir. I'll get with you though. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, we're gonna end the recess at 6:22. And we will address ordinance number 2025-05, approving and ratifying the ad valorem property tax rate reflected in the adopted fiscal year October 1, 2025 to September 30th, 2026. And then we'll have a budget vote as required.
Mr. Loftus, if you wouldn't mind, we could go ahead and read C into the record, and we'll handle both of those at the same time. The presentation covers both topics.
And item C, which reflects the ordinance number 2025-06, adopting the budget for fiscal year October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026 with a required vote.
Thank you, sir. If you will look at your table, I have put the PowerPoint presentation in the event that the TV wasn't working properly at the back. However, there are also extra copies, sir, Mr. Mason. On the side, there's extra copies, so you don't have to turn around. So you can take a look at that and follow along with council. The information that you'll see on the first few slides is not unfamiliar to you. This is the same thing that we talked about at our previous meeting where you set the tax rate at what's called the voter approval rate. That was necessary in order to service the bonds as it relates to the information or the projects that were approved by our residents in May of 2024. In the first year, we only have to pay interest on the bonds, and the second year, you're required to now pay the principal and the interest. So therefore, you see the change in the rate. When we discussed this and when we put the bonds out to voters, we did talk about these tiers and how in the first year would be a different rate, the second year would be the steadier rate, and then it will stay at that rate until the bonds are paid off or until we are able to retire them through some other financial resource. We are not raising the tax rate for anything other than the debt that was associated and approved by the individuals that voted in the May 24 election. You see the de minimis rate on the screen. That is a rate that city is allowed to set, which will generate $500,000 in extra revenue for 1 year. However, if the council were to approve a rate that exceeds the voter approval rate, then the entire rate that is set by council is open for petition by our residents for a vote to repeal it back to either the voter approval rate or the no new revenue rate. So we have not exceeded that this year, but the de minimis is on there. And I like to try and explain it because sometimes that number is pretty high and people get very concerned. So as you see on that slide, we are adopting the voter approval rate at the 773. When you go to the next slide, this is the same information that we presented to you at our last meeting. You'll see the last two number points there to the very right. This is the part of the tax rate that helps to subsidize or helps to pay for all of our operational costs. Last year, that came in at about 25 cents. This year, it's actually gone down 4 pennies just about. So we have not increased operations cost. We have not increased the tax rate to pay for additional staff or raises or purchases or anything of that nature. So I want to make that very clear that by adopting the voter approval rate, we're keeping our operational costs pretty much steady. The only thing that we are changing is the debt service rate. So if you'll go to the next slide, please, ma'am, you will see that this is the change. In the 24-25 year, we had 36,739 as the debt rate. This year is at 56,267. That number will fluctuate slightly based on as we pay down the principal and as the interest is calculated. I have a very long actuary sheet that I have to calculate each year and give that information to the county in order to get our tax rate. So it's all very prescribed and very set out. Any questions on the M&O portion or the debt portion of the tax rate? So the next slide, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the tax rate for maintenance and operations plus the tax rate for the debt equal the voter approval rate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you look at this slide, this will give you some of the comparison that we were talking about from last year. Our total tax rate last year was at 0.618768. This year it has gone up approximately 15, 12 cents roughly, maybe. It's late in the day and my math is not as good as it should be, but it's gone up to 0.773667. You will see the next line, it says M&O, which is basically, excuse me, what pays for all of our operations. You will see there the number has gone down. And you will see inversely that the interest and sinking or the debt rate has gone up. We are still, as I mentioned, within the voter approval rate. We do have a adjusted certified taxable value that has gone down by about almost $20 million this year. And we have had an increase in property tax that is subject to a tax freeze of about $4 million. So all of that factored in will affect that rate that you see at the top of both the no new revenue and the voter approval rate, et cetera. You will also see at the bottom, the city debt secured by property taxes is approximately 1.4 million, and last year it was 952. So that is the delta between interest only in the first year when the bonds were actually issued versus the principal and the interest that we are required to pay thus far. Any questions on that? The next thing that we have to talk about are the budget priorities for the general fund and the utility fund. I have presented this to you all before. This information is not new. Unless you have questions, I won't belabor the information on this slide. These are the same priorities that we had when we talked about the budget before. Many of these have been on here for more than 1 year. We keep these in front of us so that we know the type of things that we would like to get accomplished on behalf of the residents for the city. However, we may not have all of the funding that we need at the moment from which to actually put all of these into action. So we keep these as kind of a goals and objectives list, if you will. On the next side, you will see that you have a couple of options in your budget for this year. You will have at your desk, I have put together a packet for you. Mr. Loftus, can I borrow yours for just a moment? So you have the first 2 pages. This one is the annual operating budget itself. This is the tax information that is on the back. It's required by law. So we do have that listed in there so that you can get that approved or take a look at it. Then you have budget A and budget B. One of the things that we talked about at our last meeting is that we are on a shortened time frame to approve the budget this year. The state legislature has made some changes that we really absolutely need to get this approved at this meeting, one of these two budgets. Otherwise, we will have some financial challenges in the coming year. So we have prepared two options so council can make a decision and give us some direction. And then you will also see in the back of your packet, you have this TNT tax rate worksheet, which is also required by law for that to go in. This is multiple pages of calculations and formularies, about 10 different pages that I work with each year as it relates to our budget and how we come at those tax rates. Now, blessedly, we do have the county who helps us with this, so I'm not kind of out there on the island by myself putting all that together. And they have been great this year as in previous years, but that information is provided to you and to residents as part of the legal requirements from the state legislature. If you will pull out budget A and B, that may be the most reference point that you go through this information. You have about 10 or 11 pages of line items. However, this slide and one other will summarize that information for you. I did provide the backup though, in case you wanted to take a look at it or you had particular questions. So when you look at the general fund, we've talked about, we have two main funds that we operate on a regular basis. General fund is our main checking account. Utility fund basically covers all of your water and sewer and trash expenses and keeps track of that separately in what's called a enterprise fund. General fund under budget A, if we hold steady with the same levels of service that we have currently this year, and we provide staff raises, the impact to the budget would be about $60,000 with the estimated benefits included. You also have at your table a pink sheet of paper that gives you the payroll scales that was prepared 3 years ago when I came in, and we have updated this each year, and it lists out each position, and it also talks about where they're at in that pay scale move. We have some positions that would get a 6% increase. We have some positions that would get none or 1% because they are at midpoint, and we need to right size our pay scale so that the people in the right position are getting paid the competitive wage for what other cities around are paying. So that 60,250 is contained in the numbers that we've prepared, and it is only for current personnel. When you look at budget B, which is the one that I am recommending, we have, of course, the baseline that we start off with our current and existing personnel. And there is a request from the fire chief to employ an assistant fire chief, as we have discussed over the past several months. The person who was serving as a volunteer in our assistant fire chief position is no longer able to keep up that particular role and has left that service unfilled. And I have a recommendation to you to hire a community services manager or fill that position with a current staff member. Only 20% of the community services manager's position or salary comes out of general fund. The rest of that is out of utility fund. So you do not see as big of an impact here because she is mainly working in the water and sewer side of the house. There are expenditure requests. If you look at the green sheet at your table, these are things that the staff members have asked for. Sorry, Mr. Loftus, can I borrow those again, sir? Thank you. I put them all away. I do have the department heads here in front of you that are happy to answer any questions. We have talked about these at our previous budget conversations. You will see the top table list general fund impact. One of the things that was requested was a change out of our current body camera system for our police department. We do need to change our fleet maintenance costs because our cars that we purchased 3 years ago are now considered elderly by police standards. So we're going to have some additional repairs and some other things that are likely to come up. We also need to increase the uniform and the training for that particular department, as you will see by the numbers listed there. The fire department has requested physicals for the current staff members that we have on staff, and that is now a state requirement. So that's really not optional. We need to fund that one. And the bay doors that currently exist on the fire department are about to fall. And so we do have $15,000 in there from which to repair those. So you'll see all in all, the expenditure requests that you see there on your slide are $79,000, and these are the items that they're going toward. If council has any questions about the particulars of each of those expenditures that we can answer, we're happy to do so. As I mentioned, your department heads are here and they're happy to add any information that you need. So I'll turn it back over to Mr. Loftus for discussion.
Anyone have any preferences on where, I guess, let's just focus on the general fund summary at this point. That was just presented to us. Are there any comments or input?
If I could draw your attention then to budget B, just to look at something quickly. You will see that on this front page that you have here under Fund 10, Department 10 for administration, you will see that the change in the collections for the debt service are reflected in this particular document. You will see that the salary, wages changes, and those expenditure requests are reflected throughout this document. I don't anticipate that this will draw down fund balance, but there's always that possibility if sales tax underperforms. This is something that we would be watching every quarter, every month as we go along, and I would bring you any updates. I will tell you last year's general fund had an excess of about $800,000 that we have put back for a variety of things that we need to make sure that we're funding. I'm expecting this year's to come in at approximately 300,000 over. So if we do have any fluctuation in this year's sales and use tax, we do have offsetting money that would cover the request that is made for this year.
Yes, I'm going to make some comments just to clarify a little bit. And set some context in the past. Historically, we've always had our employees, pretty much below the midpoint for the salary ranges. And we are trying to keep up with it. And that's important for retention. And also on the expenditure requests, the city has a history of not maintaining their infrastructure. And I think this is very key to equipping our employees appropriately and maintenance. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I'm good with budget B.
I'm looking at the line on the pink pages. Thank you for color coding. Page 2, fire assistant chief. So up here it says new personnel, assistant fire chief, 60,000. Proposed fire assistant chief is a little different.
It is. However, we eliminated the weekend firefighter position, which was approximately $50,000 in order to gain hopefully this one.
Thanks.
And that was one of the areas that, well, chief felt like that the assistant fire chief was more important. Scott, would you like to speak to that, sir?
Yeah, with our current staff of volunteers that are all certified, firefighters. Weekends now, we're getting anywhere from 4 to 6 people a weekend, so, before we wouldn't get anybody, so that's why we kind of staffed up on the weekends with the weekend firefighter. So now it's really not necessary to have it, and I'll just move the weekend firefighter up to a full-time firefighter on a regular shift, to take the place of the person that's gonna go into the assistant chief role.
So we had a cost savings. We eliminated one position and we asked or requested a new one. So it's a little bit of a shift. It's not a fully, you don't have to fully fund a new assistant chief. Otherwise that cost would be different. Yes.
Thank you. I will also say I second everything that Mr. Loftus said, that this seems to be going in the direction that we want to go in, moving more towards, I mean, in some cases, catching us up to our minimum pay scale and then getting closer to the midpoint. So I think we've done a good job as a council and with staff's input of trying to become a little bit more, what's the word? Shine a star on us.
Yeah.
It's a little brighter over here than in the past. And so it's helping us recruit some quality people and they want to stay.
We have people coming to us now asking us if we have positions open because we're getting a reputation of providing services and being a good team that's here on behalf of the community. And I'm very pleased with each and every one of them. They've done an amazing job. Okay, if we could then look before we get any further, unless Mr. Johnson has a question, I have some items in utility fund. Do you have any questions, Mr. Johnson, yet?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. If you'll go forward, please, one. This is looking at the utility fund. So think water, sewer, trash. These are the utility fund budget priorities, is the completion of the bond projects, which is the replacement of the west wastewater treatment plant that we've been discussing several times over the past several meetings. The drilling of the water wells that were approved by our residents last year, and then the item that we just approved today to award the bid, which is the replacement of the sanitary sewer lines that flow to that west plant. You've heard the mayor mention that he is very interested in a second elevated water tank as a redundancy if our current tank goes offline, which it is several years old and it is well beyond the time that it should have been maintained. We will definitely need that second tank, or we're not going to have any water pressure. So I have been in conversations with Mr. Peter Pinkoffs about the possibility of partnering on an elevated tank. So we will see where those discussions take us. We need to rehab our existing water tanks. We need to update our fee and charge schedules for a variety of things. We need to do street inventory and a repair plan creation. We have generators that have to be integrated into our system according to our emergency preparedness plan. And then we have some issues at the Bobo plant with access and the number of cars that go through there and just kind of general configuration of the security around that area. So these are all things that we're keeping an eye on. However, if you'll go to the next slide, this is what we have proposed for this fiscal year. If you keep things at budget A, it's about $20,000 to give raises to the current personnel. There are only at current six individuals that come out of that particular department. If you look at budget B, you will see that there is a different request for personnel. You see the 19.5 is to change payroll for our current staff. You will see that there's a different number there as we are requesting that we move our current utility billing manager into a community services manager position and allow that person to handle some code enforcement, which we desperately need and have residents who have asked for, as well as oversee utility billing. And that would allow us to utilize her skills, her knowledge of the community, and move her into department head position where she can better serve the city. And then we would hire a utility billing clerk to fill her position at a lower rate than what we pay her. So it's fiscally responsible to look at that. And those salaries come out of utility fund, not general fund. There are expenditure requests for that department that you also see on the green sheet. There's a desk and a laptop computer for the new position that we would need to purchase. There are one-time expenses to put Connex box covers on the new Connex boxes that we purchased in the back, which would allow us to park police cars and other items underneath there, tractors, lawnmowers, vehicles, etc., under there in case we need to get them out of the weather or we just need to try and keep them maintained a little better. There's not enough room in the public workshop from which to park all of this, and there's not enough room in the fire department to park all of those. You will see that there is an additional request in here for immunizations. This is something that Mr. Dominguez has requested for $1,000 that would allow them to get hepatitis shots and other things related to exposure that they have at the sanitary sewer plant and in the water function that would help to keep the team safe. They have supplies and tools that they requested. Maintenance are the next three for meter calibration and generator and blower maintenance. And so you'll see that's a total increase of $45,000 for the utility fund for a total of $136,000 roughly. It's the same concept as utility fund. I tried to keep this consistent and tried to keep it fairly easy for this year. As you have heard me talk multiple times, I am in conversations with people every week about development in Rome. It is going to come, but it's not here today. And until we get it here, we cannot count on that revenue from which to project. And therefore, you will not see any large moves in the budget until we have that actual source from which to fund it. So we've kept things pretty, we've kept it at status quo in budget A, and we've kept it with some modest requests in budget B. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have on either one of those.
Is there any discussion on the utility fund summary?
I do have one question. So when we're looking at the public works operators, I see public work operator, public works operator 1, public works operator 2. So public work operator,
We do not have anybody in that position currently. And we have a 2 and 3 1s, I think.
Yes.
So are we hoping to add that position?
No, that is one that we have hired in the past, but as they have gained their certifications, they moved from basic operator or technician to an operator one.
Okay, it just says proposed 44,000.
We will not be filling that, no. You will see in blue, you see the administrative utility billing clerk and the administrative community service manager. You will see that the proposed base salary for that position for the clerk is $46,300, which is consistent with our administrative assistant positions in the city. And then the increase that you see there for the community service manager, we're already paying her. So this would just be an increase of about $8,000 in her payroll to take on that new role and to also provide some code enforcement for the city.
Okay, what about for public works operator two? Just in all fairness, I understand that maybe they started out a little higher.
They've just reached their midpoint quicker than others did in that particular. And so he has actually exceeded the midpoint. He will with this proposed budget. This was a conversation I had with Mr. Dominguez, and this is the number that was settled on.
Okay.
I had a question on the utility fund expenditure requests. The desk, laptop, computer, and well, those two items. And when was the last time that the computers were replaced for the utilities?
For public works side, and it'd be Julie's also. Mine's fairly new. I'd say
Julie's
within the
was
last,
last year.
I think mine was last year too, maybe even a year and a half ago.
Council used a considerable resource that we had in the COVID funds to replace technology.
Okay, I just get concerned when I see this listed as one time, because you should probably
Yes, sir.
be refreshing that equipment probably once every 3 years.
We should.
In our case, so.
Our fulcrum keeps an eye on our inventory and they make said recommendations. We've not gotten to the point of predicting our budget out for 5 years, but once we get there, you will see that in the outlying years as to when we need to start looking at technology replacements. Other questions?
Yes, back to public works operator two. How long has this person been in this position?
Less than 2 years, 2 years.
Since, I think they were here before I got here,
Uh-huh.
so maybe 3.
Yeah. And there has been changes in the past of pay, so
Yes.
our start operators months, they're still pretty low, so we're trying to get it caught up to where it should.
I think my thinking is as we gain years of experience, we get closer to that midpoint and then our raises, our annual increases tend to become a little bit lower. And I think it's important for us to just keep in mind for retention purposes, but I think that's appropriate,
Yeah.
being that it's that new and it's at or above the midpoint.
Any other questions? Mr. Johnson, did anything come up that I can answer for you, sir? So if council doesn't have questions, we absolutely have to pass a budget this evening and adopt a tax rate. You have the ordinances in your packet and it is so listed on the agenda. I would turn it back over to Mr. Loftus for any motions that council wishes to make.
Is there any other discussion on the tax rate adoption or the proposed budgets? These need to be separate motions.
I would put a record of.
Okay. So do I have a motion for ordinance number 2025-05? Item B.
Right over here.
Okay.
Yes. Ready?
Yeah.
I moved to adopt ordinance number 2025-05, approving and ratifying the voter approval tax rate reflected in the adopted fiscal year, October 1, 2025 to September 30th, 2026 annual budget record vote required.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And could I have your votes, please?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Mr. Loftus, on this one, we would need to insert which budget they want to approve, either A or B.
Okay, is this amended, motion then, or?
No, I'm sorry, sir, on the next one.
On the next one, okay.
I apologize.
Thank you. Do I have a motion regarding the budget for fiscal year October 2025 to September 30, 2026?
I move to adopt ordinance number 2025-06, adopting the budget B for fiscal year October 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026.
A second.
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. We really appreciate the attention and the fact that we were able to pull this together quickly so that we can meet those requirements that the legislature had put in place. The only item that we have left on your agenda this evening is executive session and a couple items that we need to discuss in there, Mr. Loftus.
At this time, section 551.074 personnel, discuss appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or hear complaint or charge against officer or employee in executive session unless officer or employee requests a public hearing. It is now 6:51 and council will enter into executive session. is returning from executive session. Do I have any motions relative to the discussion in executive session?
The city attorney has advised us that the legislature has requested some changes be made to municipal contracts in some cases, and so therefore we have action to take. So I move that the city manager contract, as discussed in executive session, be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Votes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carvin, are we good?
Yes, but you've got another one to tell.
Yeah, right.
Proceed.
I would also like to make a motion that we approve the city secretary contract as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Aye.
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 Both motions passed. Do I have another motion? To adjourn.
There you go. I make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Your vote?
I thought maybe we'd sit here for a bit. Aye.
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 Thank you both.
Thank you.